Welcome back to the Bleacher Report college football ranking stream. Mike Golic Jr. back with you as always, former Notre Dame offensive lineman, current TNT sports broadcaster. Here at a new date and time, I think we're going to stick with this one. Wednesdays, 6 o'clock Eastern, right here on the BR app, the Bleacher Report YouTube channel. You can check us out there. We're trying to incorporate now as the month is the calendar's turned to November. We had the college football rankings coming out every Tuesday night. And while we did the rankings right after the initial rankings last week, we want to kind of give a day to digest, look at some of the last week and look ahead to this week. So Wednesdays, 6 o'clock Eastern. Tell a friend, because as always, you make all the difference. We want to hear from you in the chat. Our producer, Ryan, always does a great job of putting your questions top of mind. So if you got something as we react to what we saw on the field, what we saw from the committee last night, holler at your boy. We'll try and get those questions answered as we go along. I like to think we've done a pretty good job of that as we keep going here. So with that in mind, again, hit us up, YouTube. It'll show up on the screen here. I'll try and answer them in real time as they come up. And talk about your favorite teams and where they land in college football right now. And let's get to that. We had the second week of the college football playoff committee's rankings come out, and some important changes. What you see right here, important as we always lay out the differences. This is the bracket after week 11. The bracket takes into account the fact that the 5 highest ranked conference champions are in the dance, that the 4 highest seeded teams receive a first round bye. So with that in mind, that's the reason you're seeing number 11 Miami, because despite, I believe, being 7th in the ACC standings right now, Miami is the highest ranked team from the ACC. They're given that, so they slot in the 11th seed. And then South Florida, who's now ranked this week in the top 25, they're number 24 at 7-2, and the leader in the American, they slot in that 12 seed there, so they knock out Oklahoma and BYU, who fell all the way to 12. So, again, this would be your bracket today. Some really awesome matchups. Texas and Ole Miss, Notre Dame and Oregon, Miami and Texas Tech, that defense that we'll get to talking about in a little bit. So that's where we sit in terms of the bracket after week 11. As someone commented in there, Indiana still at number 2. So let's look at the top of the list and start down there in terms of the rankings. And I'm curious what everyone thought about that, because Lane Kiffin was the latest to kind of make a stink and throw up his hand and say, why is Texas A&M not number 1? They went on the road, they beat Notre Dame, made the case for them, saying, this is what we heard from the SEC a lot this offseason too, is why would someone schedule a tough game like that on the road at the beginning of the season if they're not going to be rewarded for it? Lane Kiffin basically saying, what have IU and Ohio State done to warrant that over them? Now, I will say for Ohio State, their first game of the season was against Texas. It was at home, but it was against the Texas team that's back to being ranked in the top 10 right now. So ages pretty well. Texas A&M deserves that credit, but Texas A&M this year has also gone through the SEC and played, I believe I counted 4 teams who have fired their head coach this year in LSU, Auburn, Florida, and who am I missing that's fired their coach this year? Either way, I understand Ohio State still being at a 1. They've handled their business. Clearly, the eye test matters a lot to this committee. We'll get to that in the other ways that it shows up. But I do think at this point, Texas A&M, you can make a realistic argument that they should be at number 2 right now on this season. Indiana's coming off a win on the road at Penn State. Their best win still on the road at Oregon, but they also beat an Illinois team highly thought of. But when you look at their out-of-conference schedule, that's where a lot of people are going to turn their nose up. This has kind of been the Big Ten strategy over recent years. For Ohio State, for certainly Michigan in their season, Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, and Indiana State as you're out of conference doesn't necessarily put forth the same effort as a team like Texas A&M, who did win on the road against a Notre Dame team that's also ranked inside the top 10. So I would have Texas A&M at number 2. I still have a ton of respect for IU and Fernando Mendoza, but we'll get to that as we go forward. Someone in the chat asked why Oklahoma was knocked out of the bracket. Great question. It's because, again, the bracket's different than the rankings. Oklahoma's sitting at number 11. We've got 2 conference champions outside of the top 12. The 5 highest ranked conference champions automatically get a ticket to the dance. And so 11 and 12 both end up getting knocked out of the bracket. And that's the way she goes. Further down the list, Texas Tech moves on up to 6 after their win against BYU at home. Pretty dominant win, 3-score win. Tim McGowan is a Texas and Oregon fan. Texas A&M is the best team in the country. Listen, certainly on the field, they have a claim to that. They've played incredible. Marcel Reed has gotten better and better. I think the Texas A&M offensive line has gotten a chance to go out there and impose their will in the run game a lot more. And Cassius Howell on that defense, you're going to have to get used to year in and year out as long as Mike Elko is there. That defense is going to be phenomenal. They lost multiple NFL starters on that defensive line, and they've still kept it moving. But Texas Tech, the big winner, they move up to 6. And a lot of people wondering why they weren't higher than a team like Georgia, than a team like Alabama. I saw David Hale at ESPN writing in his Anger Index column. Texas Tech has played 2 top 13 teams now and beaten them by a combined score of 63-17. That would be BYU and Utah. Georgia, you could argue, has better losses. Their loss coming to Alabama. Alabama's loss to Florida State, not great, but Alabama, the wins against Georgia, Vanderbilt, Missouri, Tennessee, all quality wins there. So you look at Texas Tech, that one loss to Arizona State, no Baron Morton on the field for them. So that's going to factor into how this is discussed. You could, if you're Texas Tech, maybe have a gripe of moving up over Georgia. I could grant you that. But overall, that's going to get sorted out as well. Georgia, Alabama, both big games down the stretch of the season. And so a lot of that's going to get sorted. Texas Tech, a much easier road to the end of the year. I believe they play UCF and West Virginia. So they look like they're on a collision course for the Big 12 championship, or whoever they face. Right now, still BYU in second place there. But they still play Cincinnati in a couple weeks. They could have something to say about that. Thunderfire, A&M or IU deserves number 1. Again, that Ohio State win against Texas is aging pretty well, and the defense looks like a vice grip. No love for Georgia Tech. I'm glad someone brought that up. So Georgia Tech checks in at number 16 right now, sitting at 8-1, but coming off a loss to NC State. That's a tough scene. And one thing we saw, the ACC, the punishment for losses as of late, pretty severe, because week 1, the biggest complaint probably came from Miami fans, who are probably still upset with where they sit in life. Miami checking in at number 15, up 3 spots, and they get NC State this week. Keep an eye on that one. But Miami moves up, but still 6 spots behind number 9 Notre Dame. That's an issue for them. Well, I now enter to the evidence pile, ACC fans. Louisville, who beat Miami, 5 weeks ago, down at 5 spots below the Miami Hurricanes after Louisville's loss this past weekend to Cal. Now their second loss of the year. So this becomes the area ripe for inconsistency. People mad that Miami has a head-to-head win over Notre Dame, the same record and comparable metrics in other areas, and they're 6 spots below them. But now Louisville, same conference, 5 spots below them, head-to-head win more recently than the Miami win over Notre Dame, and people are fully willing to discount that. So, again, I said when Notre Dame was ranked above Miami, I was surprised the gap was that high, but I understood it based on what you could sell as getting better. Louisville's loss, certainly worse, but this is just kind of what we see happen with the AP poll all the time. A little surprised the drop was that precipitous for Louisville in this case. Now, you also have the issue, Louisville lost to Virginia, who now is above them. Virginia lost finally, again in this last week, to Wake Forest. In a game where they didn't have their starting quarterback. So there's a lot that goes into all these. So again, I don't have a huge issue with that. But at this point, Miami right now doesn't even have a driver's seat to get to the ACC championship at this point. As we look at the ACC standings right now, pull that up here. As we look at the ACC standings right now, still on track for Georgia Tech and Virginia to play. Pitt's going to factor into this because Pitt plays Georgia Tech before the end of the year. Pitt plays Notre Dame this weekend. Miami is sitting down in the 7th spot right now. So they're going to have to fully hope for the at-large. And the interesting question becomes, and I genuinely don't know the answer for this right now, what happens if Miami runs the table from here on out, is 10-2, and is sitting much closer to Notre Dame? Because the committee said in week 1, Virginia lost finally. I misspoke. It's long season. Yes, they lost early in the season. I understand it. I meant in the conference. Because, again, for those who keep score at home, the NC State game at the beginning of the season was not counted as a conference game. I was staring at conference records. Thank you for the correction, chat. I appreciate you, even when you're not nice to me. So, like I said, that's going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on, because if Miami gets close, the committee said in the first round of rankings, Miami and Notre Dame, the head-to-head comes into play when teams are deemed comparable. That first week, they didn't view Notre Dame and Miami as comparable because Miami had lost 2 of their last 3 games. And so if you get to the end of the year and they're both 10-2 within range, I saw Joel Klatt say that head-to-head has to matter. Miami has to be above them. I think we've seen the committee stay still. How you're playing now matters a lot more, so you'd have to probably see some pretty demonstrable improvement from Miami. They do play NC State, common opponent with Notre Dame, and Pitt, common opponent with Notre Dame after this weekend. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on here. What happens and how the ACC sorts out. If that ends up being a two-bid league, because it's going to be fascinating. Can the ACC or the Big 12 pull off two teams this year? The Big 12's got one in right now in Texas Tech. BYU and Utah sitting at 12 and 13, so they're in range. Very, very interested to see how this goes. So we'll keep an eye on that. But let's get to some of what we saw this weekend around the sport. If you got more reactions to the College Football Playoff Committee's bracket, fire them in. Our producer Ryan will go and scoop those up. We can answer some of those as we get closer to the end and do some of our quarterback rankings as well. The ACC does still have interesting college football. SEC is boring. The SEC maybe has been boring for this little bit of lull. You look at the SEC schedule we have coming up, where like you're going to get Texas playing some marquee games, including against Texas A&M to end the season. Alabama's got more meat on the bone. Like I do think that this is going to get more interesting for the SEC coming up. Alabama's got Oklahoma and the Iron Bowl to end the season, which I get as a different tenor right now. You look at Georgia, though, their end-of-season schedule. Texas this weekend. Georgia Tech at the end of the season. Fascinating game in a ton of ways. Ole Miss probably has the easiest schedule left of the SEC contenders up top, Florida and Mississippi State in there as well. So, again, plenty of stuff to keep an eye on. Already said why Indiana's over the Aggies. I'm not sure. I think Texas A&M should be over Indiana. And how people digest this Indiana win from this weekend going to be interesting. Copley 8-13. I agree. Notre Dame is hitting their stride. Big win. No Blake Horvath for Navy this weekend for the Fighting Irish. But they handle their business as they have of late against a Navy team that is 7-2 right now. They're 2 losses to North Texas and Notre Dame, the best teams they've played, but still a live dog in the American. So we'll see what goes on with them. Let's get to this Indiana win. So Indiana pulls off the comeback win against Penn State in Happy Valley. And kind of like Florida in the SEC has been the team that people talk about, good roster, things went bad this year, but man, when you beat them, hey, that's a tough defense. It's kind of the party line from everybody that talks about them. You wonder if Penn State's going to get that state treatment. Still a bunch of NFL guys on there, still one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I think that's still a difficult place to play, and we saw this team come out and give their best effort. And not the best day for Fernando Mendoza. A pretty bad pick, held onto the ball for too long, late and outside, ends up getting a turnover. But the final drive, 4 or 5 throws of over 10 yards, some nails passes in this game. And as we get to the month of November, Fernando Mendoza's name is going to be bantered about for the Heisman. I still think this Indiana team, this is a month where against a roster like that, going on the road and getting a win like this does impress me, the resilience at the end of the game. They got to play better in a bunch of ways, but when you look at Indiana, that last drive in the game, this is a difficult team to kill because their quarterback is really good. Omar Cooper stepped up for them big. They had some other receivers step up and do big things. And that final drive, the last play has gotten a ton of attention, and rightly so. That catch that we saw from Omar Cooper Jr., one of the best, probably the best catch we'll see all year. Toe tap in the back of the end zone off a high throw. But I want to show you the correction that Indiana made from the play before that. This is the second to last play. It's an incompletion that almost ends up as an interception off a tip ball by Fernando Mendoza. And Indiana makes one small correction from one play to the next that ends up getting them the final touchdown. The throw from Fernando Mendoza on that final play, insane, and we'll see why the degree of difficulty was so high. So this is the second to last play. Penn State's got 8 guys up at the line of scrimmage, so you got to make a decision on how you're going to handle that. You've technically got 7 guys in protection here, but you're going to see up front how they want to handle it. And usually as an offensive lineman, we're taught work inside out. I want to protect the inside gaps, and we just all need to be on the same page so the quarterback knows where he's protected and where he's not. And right here, you can very clearly see the offensive line is going to block the 5 guys in front of them. So everyone is matched up with their guy. We call that 5 down back in the day. Tight end here has got a guy checked up on him man-to-man. The problem with this, these all-up looks are usually designed to have 1 or 2 guys up in the middle, bluff out and get in a passing lane. But they force you to declare protection and then make you wrong with the way they rush. And so you're going to look here. I believe it's this linebacker right here. Comes up for a second, but then drops out back. and gets into one of the lanes. And so that means you end up having two guys free off the edge in this case, and both of them are party at the quarterback. So you watch here. They go through, running back checks to the left side and gets one, but that right guy comes scot-free and hits the arm of Fernando Mendoza, and that dropper actually slips going back, or else he may have been in range for an interception. So that's the second to last play. Now let's go for the touchdown. So again, on this final play, what we've got here is another all-up look. 8 guys up at the line of scrimmage. And so instead this time, the tight end's attached to the left here, and they're going to slot the running back over here, and they're going to have the offensive line full line slide. We call this Tally or Terry. Terry if you're going right, Tally if you're going that way. Full line slide to try and account for this, because what they realized is we got to give the quarterback an extra half second, if that. And the block's not pretty, but this right tackle getting just enough of the end man on the line of scrimmage out here makes all the difference. So again, instead of going straight ahead, everybody's just taking their man over to the right. And you're still going to get guys gapping out over there, but watch the right tackle. Going to get just enough of this guy. Gets a hit. He was a free rusher before. Fernando Mendoza gets that last half second he needs and gets an incredible pass off. Still gets hit from the other side, but to his arm side, his throwing arm side, gets just enough to make that happen. So to me, that was awesome to see. The little chess match within the game of having to make that to give him a chance at the throw that ends up winning them the game. And Indiana keeps it moving, keeps their hopes and dreams alive, still on a collision course with Ohio State for the Big Ten championship. Oregon's interesting now. They get what I think most people were looking for, that marquee win for Oregon, and how much faith are you going to put in it coming against Iowa? I think a lot. Go on the road, rainy environment against an Iowa team that always is stout on defense and can run the piss out of the football. Dante Moore, another kind of lackluster performance for him statistically. Not the most eye-popping stuff that we've seen there as we pull up his stats right now. 18-16 win. Dante Moore, 112 passing yards on the day on 13 of 21 passing. Not great. To me, this win for Oregon, though, finding different ways to do it. We've seen them high fly and go over the top on people. The Oregon offensive line and Noah Whittington really took over. And I agree. Night Train 551, Iowa has one of my favorite, if not my favorite, offensive line to watch in college football. The standard there since Kirk Ferentz came over on that position is ironclad and unimpeachable. They're great. They've added some different wrinkles even to the run game this year, more counter, more mid-zone. It's been awesome. But the defense is also blue chip stock. They don't do a ton, but they're good at what they do. And so for Oregon to say, all right, hey, our young quarterback struggling a little bit right now. Turn the ball over to the other team. We're going to hand the ball off and let our offensive line and running backs make it happen. And they did. 261 rushing yards on the day, averaged 7.3 yards per carry. AJ Georgia 4, who's winning the Big Ten? Right now, I would lean Ohio State. I do think they're a little more vulnerable up front on the offensive line than I thought at the beginning of the season, and that Indiana defense is legit good. But the Ohio State defense is the best single unit in the Big Ten right now. And so that group still, to me, is the one I'm going to defer to. You've got the two great wide receivers. We've highlighted them on this show before, and so that's a tough one to look away from there. Let's talk about Texas Tech. Texas Tech and Alabama both handle their business this weekend. Alabama in a rivalry game against LSU where Ty Simpson keeps doing the damn thing. 277 yards passing for him against the LSU team that benched Garrett Nussmeier midway through this game. The fall from grace there, Brian Kelly fired, all the stuff going on with the lawsuit there now, the governor getting involved. And then the quarterback that I thought was the best in college football before the season get benched. Pretty wild. So Ty Simpson in this offense that still doesn't really have a running game to speak of. Blake Baker and the LSU defense can still get after people. That's not in question. But Alabama, this is not just a this week problem. They have a real tough time running the football consistently. So impressed by the job Ty Simpson continues to do. We'll do our quarterback trust tree at the end of the show here. Spoiler alert, he ranks very high. I want to talk about Texas Tech, though, because this felt like the coronation weekend for Texas Tech. They finally have a game. College game days there, ranked opponent in BYU. Everyone's paying attention to this team. And Cameron Dickey, the star of the show on offense for them, an offense that put up just enough, right? A lot of it by field goals, but got it done, especially off the backs of the defense. That's always going to be a strength of that team. Bear Bachmeier, he met them boys. Now, I think BYU's offense, I tried to go back and count this on the drives, I believe crossed the 50-yard line only 3 times, and one of them was on the last drive of the game. That's tough because this Texas Tech defense, my God in heaven, are monsters. And everyone got to see that. And you had Joey McGuire coming out after the game where Jacob Rodriguez, their linebacker, hits the Heisman, has another interception. He's got 7 forced fumbles on the season. I was Notre Dame in 2012 when Manti Te'o was on the team, finished second in the Heisman to Johnny Manziel, had 7 interceptions as an off-ball linebacker. You got to do something atypical. So our Patters 911, how do I feel about the Jacob Rodriguez for Heisman campaign? I feel pretty good about it. This is a year where we talked about, we turned over a lot of the quarterback names. Jeremiah Love, probably the position player on offense that most people have come to mind. But defensively, he as a totem for that Texas Tech defense, to me, is a really fascinating case. Because, again, Manti had 7 picks playing off-ball linebacker. You got to do something atypical. And Jacob Rodriguez is on some pretty interesting trajectories when it comes to forced fumbles in a single season. Led the team in tackles last year, was first team all Big 12 last year. He's one of the holdovers who can play ball. But he's got some help up front. And that's what I want to show you guys right now when we look at this game. So I want to show you one of the last plays from the last drive. 3 minutes and 52 seconds left in this game. BYU's down and they got to go all game. When you watch BYU on offense, it was 2 guys on each of the ends. David Bailey, who leads the NCAA in sacks with 11.5. Romello Height on the other side, who I believe has 6 on the season. They were making sure there were 2 guys watching either of them at all times. Smart business. But at the end, when you got to pop the restrictor plate off and try and go get fast points, can't do that as much anymore. So what you see up here on defense, again, I'm going to do some quick math for you guys here. You've got Romello over here with 6 sacks. You've got David Bailey over here with 11.5. And then I want to make sure I get the number right and get these guys their just due. On defense, all right, yeah, so you got A.J. Holmes over here at defensive tackle. He's got 3.5 sacks, and then you've got Lee Hunter, your nose guard, who's got 2.5 sacks. So your 4 leading sackers, the only guys on the team that have multiple sacks, are all on your defensive front. They get to be really simple. It's awesome for business. But if you're the offensive line for BYU, you do that math, and you say, I'm more worried about these 3 guys than I am Hunter Lee, who's more the plugger, 2-gapper, things of that nature. And so what you're going to watch happen on this play is, again, you got 5 offensive linemen to block 4 guys. So you're trying to find a place for a double team. Both tackles are going to end up on an island here, but only for a second. The left guard is going to be the one to watch right in this picture because he's going to start off, we call it you put a post hand on a guy. So when you're to the slide side where the center's coming, I put my inside hand on the inside tackle and I have my eyes on the guy outside. So if David Bailey comes spinning inside or anything like that, I got to be there to clean up the mess. And so your eyes are there. You're worried about that. If you're the center, which I played too, you got to kind of be aware of everything. And again, this guy's got more sacks than that guy. So you're just doing the math. And Texas Tech is a real good way of making the math bad for you. You're saying, all right, if I lose that one guy left, if he goes over on the guard, then I can turn my eyes back and try and help out on AJ on the other side. And so what ends up happening here is this guard's a little concerned about David Bailey, understandably so. And he goes to help the tackle. The center thinks that Lee Hunter is going this way. And so he doubles back to help on the defensive tackle to the other side. And we end up getting a nice quarterback hit for the big fella that results. So again, you see right there, this is the moment where things go wrong. The center thinks, oh, he's over here and the guard has him. The guard thinks, well, dear God, that guy's leading college football in sacks. I better go help my tackle this way because he looks like he's getting the edge. And so that leaves the big fella in the middle. Again, you got 5 to block 4, but when those 4 are as physically impressive and as dominant up front rushing the passer as Texas Tech is, the math's never going to math in your favor. And so just an incredible, that group's been so fun to watch all year. I'm glad people got treated to that. The Jacob Rodriguez Heisman campaign, absolutely deserving as the guy who in the middle of that defense behind a group. And we talked to him on another show I did this week. And he's like, football's never been easier than it is this year with these guys in front of me doing their thing. All right, let's get to a little overreaction or not this week in college football. And on that note, coming off Texas Tech, overreaction or not, the Big 12 is the SEC's biggest national title threat Overreaction or not? I'm going to say overreaction on this one. Like, again, Texas Tech's defense is going to be able to keep them in every single game they play, and that's including the playoffs. I still have some questions, even with Baron Morton in, about the high-end capability of that offense against some of the better teams. But I think it's the Big Ten. Ohio State and Indiana, to me, are the chief threat. Like, those, I don't think we need to overthink this. I understand people are going to say the Big Ten hasn't played anybody. Like, I just, this is one where, again, we see the committee, the eye test matters, and they look at those teams the same way I do, which is damn good football teams. Again, I think Texas A&M should be too, but I think these Big Ten teams are the biggest threat. Virginia and Louisville ended their college football playoff bid. That, to me, again, overreaction, because the ACC champion still gets an automatic bid to this. And as of right now, Georgia Tech's in pole position, but then Virginia's in second. So right now, if the season ended today, Virginia would be in Charlotte playing this game. Now, Pitt's going to be a big factor in all this before the end of the season. They play Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, and Miami. But for Virginia, yeah, the loss stings, and you got to wait and see what happens with Chandler Morris at quarterback. But Duke and Virginia Tech are winnable games on the schedule. Duke, certainly a tough out, great offensive line, great quarterback, but overall, no. I would say, listen, Louisville made things harder on themselves. They need a little bit more help in this situation. Clemson, SMU, who beat Miami, and Kentucky to end the season. Kentucky's got a good way of mucking it up. It's a rivalry game. Shout out to the Louisville men's hoops team getting a win in that rivalry. So, no, I'll say that's an overreaction just because Virginia still has a path to the title. Ole Miss's biggest Kiffin threat is the New York Giants, where his former quarterback in Jackson Dart is playing. I'll say overreaction there too. I still think if Lane leaves, it's going to be for Florida or LSU. At this point, Florida's looking a lot better. If you're Lane Kiffin or any big-time coach out there watching LSU get into a legal battle over the buyout money for its former coach, buyout money that Brian Kelly, whatever you think of him, is owed. They signed that contract like everybody else. They fired him, then they said they weren't given the actual right to terminate him, and now they're going to try and fire him with cause. It looks like a clown show. And that's after the governor of the state already came out and made a mess of things. So, no, I don't think Lane's going to the NFL. I think we saw how that went last time. And as great as it would be with Jackson Dart, the Giants also don't strike me as the kind of organization that would enjoy Lane's brand of coaching and the, very being a troll online. I don't think the Mara family necessarily wants to sign up for that. But that being said, I think we'll all be grateful to keep Lane in college football. Overreaction or not, Jeremiah Love is the best running back in the country. Come on, guys. Not an overreaction. At this point of the season, I really want to hear someone else's argument for why anyone else should be up top. I understand he's not the leading rusher in the country right now. But Jeremiah Love is the fifth leading rusher in college football, splitting carries in his backfield with Jadarian Price. We got to stop. Jeremiah Love is unquestionably the best running back in college football. Heisman moment added to his plate in the Navy game, gets contacted 3 yards in the backfield, rolls off a guy, finds his way into the end zone. The dude is one of one. He's been incredible this season. He's an incredible receiver out of the backfield that quite honestly hasn't been used enough. As of late, he's going to go over 1,000 yards, barring something unforeseen. He's got 13 rushing touchdowns on the season, which is more than Ahmad Hardy. Again, I understand and appreciate Missouri fans going to bat for their guy. I've watched him. He's a great player. Jeremiah Love is one of those legit generational type players. So I think that's an unquestioned, not an overreaction. And last but not least, Texas will make the CFP. Overreaction or not? I'll say overreaction. They got a tough next couple of weeks coming up. Already, when you look at this Texas team, again, let's go back to the schedule here. I need to pull this up so I don't say something factually incorrect and y'all make fun of me. There we go. Thank you. Texas already 2 losses on the season. You can't afford a third, and you got to play 2 of the top 5 teams in college football. I don't like that math. I think Texas A&M will beat them. I think they're a better football team, even though Arches, not so quietly improved, back-to-back 300-yard games in the last couple of weeks, especially against a Vanderbilt team that people like a lot, myself included. I just think one more loss sinks the ship for them. So That one for me, a little hard to get behind. That one to me, a little more cut and dry. And if they win both these games, then they're going to be in for a lock, and they're going to jump Notre Dame and jump a bunch of the teams in front of them, and life's going to be really good. And the conversation around Arch Manning is going to change a lot from the one we were having at the beginning of the season. Again, way overhyped, got time to work on himself, go on some hot girl walks, take a drive, and now he seems to be playing a lot better for them, which is great. Speaking of which, let's get to the quarterback trust tree and finish off the day. Again, we do this pyramid format, one guy at the top, two in the middle, five at the bottom for the quarterbacks we trust to help their team win a national championship in college football this year. Let's start at the top. Listen, I get it wasn't a banner day for him, but he's been phenomenal all year long. The offense, again, doesn't do him a ton of favors. It's a lot of RPO stuff, and so he's got to be great. And when it mattered most, he was on the road in a tough environment. Fernando Mendoza, one of the best throws of the year on that touchdown to Omar Cooper Jr. I'll give him the top spot. Ty Simpson, Julian Sand at the 2 spot there. Guys that names are also climbing up draft boards that we see coming out every week, as a lot of those guys getting into mock season. That to me seems pretty unassailable. Similar players too, Ty Simpson and Julian Sand. They'll be fun to study together looking towards the NFL draft coming up. And then the final tier, CJ Carr, Haynes King, Diego Pavia, Trinidad Chambliss, and Marcel Reed. I think these guys are awesome. Like CJ Carr, obviously, got back on track. Tough USC game, but bombs away the last couple of weeks against Boston College and Navy. Haynes King, the heartbeat of a Georgia Tech team that, yes, took a hit, but to me, still incredible. DH, listen, I don't know what you want from me, man. I watch all these guys. I have a deep appreciation. The Ohio State Buckeye logo and your thing. Julian's a phenomenal player. Great in his own right. My preference is Mendoza right now. It is what it is. And then the final tier. Marcel Reed has improved as much as any player in the country from last year to this year. Awesome there. Trinidad Chambliss, we did a couple of his plays from their game, I believe, against Oklahoma a few weeks ago. Got some NFL caliber throws in his bag. Pavia is classless. That's fine. There might not be a more impact player. Trash throw, man, listen, the rule down, Durs, I'm going to completely disagree with you. Trash throw, he's got 2 guys bearing down on his face the way he did the game before, puts the ball where only his guy can go up and get it, and he makes a spectacular play. If you're not impressed by that play, I'm sorry, you're just a hater. If that doesn't impress you, this is like that whole 225 trend going around TikTok right now. Guys calling that the standard on the bench. We got to recalibrate our brains because things might be broken. And as far as Diego Pavia being classless, I don't care. That Vanderbilt second half where they mounted the comeback in the fourth quarter, Diego Pavia, the offensive line hasn't played as well as late as I wanted. That dude is as impactful for his team as anyone. Erases mistakes for the guys up front. Some laser throws to their great tight end, Eli Stowers. The guy is just inevitable. He is a force of nature out there on the field, and he's like 5'10". If he were 3-4 inches taller, we'd be having some real interesting discussions about the draft in the spring. And it's just probably not going to happen because he's such a physical outlier, but it's really, really impressive. So got a lot of respect for the way that guy plays football. It is unbelievably gutty. And unbelievably impressive. So that's our quarterback trust tree after week 11. We got some reactions to the rankings. We got a few plays in here today. We hope you enjoyed it. If you do, we will be back here Wednesday, 6 o'clock Eastern next week. No changes to the schedule, no time changes, anything like that. So we'll be back here to break down another round of the committee rankings, what happens in some of these big games coming up this weekend, and look ahead and talk quarterbacks and everything else you want. Thanks, as always, to everyone in the chat who pops in. Producer Ryan for getting that to me. We'll be here again. Until that time, enjoy the weekend. Yell and scream about the rankings online to somebody else. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you next week.